commentary, entertainment, sports, news, and opinion now. Here is Steve Malzberg.
All right, Steve is taking one of his 300 days off for the year, and he's enjoying the Jersey Shore, I'm sure. I'm Rob Astorino, the Westchester County Executive, just north of New York City. I'm also running for governor in New York, so feel free to go to robastorino.com and find out how we're going to beat Andrew Cuomo. I'm sure our next guest is going to vote for me. Ellis Henican, who is a columnist for Newsday and a Fox News political analyst, joins us. Ellis, how you doing?
Hey, good. You counting on that one? Put a little check mark by my name, okay? Listen, we all truly, those of us who work in the media, like a good race, and you've been given a good run, and I got to tell you, it's at least good theater. How about that?
That's good. Well, more theater to come, by the way, until November 4th.
Fair enough.
So, okay, President Obama, you're going to have the unenviable task of defending what's going on in this country today.
Bring it on.
So, do you want to start with the alphabet soup? We can go HUD, we can go IRS, we can. What do you want to do?
I'm sure you can find a phony scandal by any name. By any name.
We're all making it up.
Pick a letter, any letter.
All right, let's start with the poll numbers.
Okay.
Okay, because
they suck. Let's just admit that.
They do. And I was just going to ask, out of the 800 people surveyed, if you were called 600 times or not, because that's the only way he could have any decent numbers. He has been tanking severely right now, even in New York, which is a very liberal state. His numbers are really not that great. What's going on with this administration? And honestly, do you think this administration's sort of second-term blues is kind of drifting, or are there adults in the White House? What's going on?
Well, listen, one of the realities about politics is that there is never one explanation for anything.
Right.
Although pundits like me like to seize onto it. But let's try to be grown-ups here. There's several things happening. One is, you're right. I mean, we're halfway through a second term, and presidents tend to sag at that time. Another reason is that everybody's poll numbers are terrible. I mean, the president's poll numbers start looking really good when you compare them to the Congress, the Republican House of Representatives. They should be so lucky as to have Barack Obama's poll numbers. But he's also gone through a tough patch. I mean, there's still frustration about the return of jobs. There are effective, even if unfair, politically effective investigations that are slamming in the House of Representatives. And listen, at the end of the second term, people start thinking, well, what's coming next? Give us something more exciting to do.
Well, all right, but the IRS, I mean, you're saying it's political, but I think, look, the American people doesn't think it's political. They think there's a scandal going on here, a target towards conservative groups. You have the IRS taking the fifth. You've got the IRS, I don't know, the computer crashed. Maybe it's on a Malaysian airline.
Your computer's never crashed, I
guess,
you
can always generally find the emails from 10 years ago if you want.
Really?
It's not the ones you want to find, but they're there.
I can't find the column I'm supposed to be writing for Newsday tomorrow. Listen, here's what I would say about that.
Yeah.
Again, I don't think anybody can defend every single action by every single one of the hundreds of thousands
but
of
is there
federal
a pattern?
employees
That's the question.
Well, here's the pattern. Yes, there is a pattern, but let me show you what it is. I'm reminded by the death of the great Senator Baker today. He was a guy who, in opposition, figured out how to do it in a respectable, inclusive, credible way. I mean, you remember Watergate and the way he handled that? These investigations, led by people like Congressman Issa and others in the House, have no credibility at all. The fact that he or some similar committee member is outraged at the behavior of the Obama administration means to most sensible people absolutely nothing, because they're outraged about every single thing. So it has become impossible, with the litany of Benghazi and IRS and whatever other 40 things are on your list of alphabet soup there, to figure out whether there's anything legit in any of it.
I think they're all legit, but let's go with the Democratic response. Where's the outrage on some of this with the Democrats? I mean, where's Nancy Pelosi? What is she saying?
Tell me what we're supposed to be outraged about.
Asking honest questions about.
That's fine if we were going to do that. Do you think? Really? Let's seriously. We're talking pretty openly here. Are you comfortable with the fairness of this investigation? Does it seem like a well-balanced search for the truth, or does it seem like a political hit job?
I think there's amnesia.
Rob.
There's amnesia.
Rob.
Amnesia. Let's go back to George W. Bush's administration. Was it civility for 8 years with the Democrats?
I concede there have been other political hit jobs in history. I'm just trying to get you to concede
I don't think it's a hit
this
job.
is a political hit job.
No, I don't think it's a hit job at all. I think you've got legitimate issues that are not being addressed by this administration.
In a fair inquiry by the members of that committee in the House, an honest and open and balanced and fair inquiry?
If they asked the question in a different way, if their tone were different, would you agree with the question?
I'm open to fair investigations. I think they'll all, listen, I spent my life as an investigative reporter.
Right.
I'm all for tough questions. But I do think that when these things really just become political theater, which is what they are, I understand that. We're in politics, it's theatrical. But
I
don't believe the results.
Is it fair to ask the former Secretary of State, a neighbor of mine, if you will, in Westchester County, Hillary Clinton, who's
a lot
going
of
to be running?
sugar swapping going on.
Yeah.
Right.
Do you think it's fair to ask her about Benghazi?
Of course. She was the Secretary of State.
What about her response?
I think her response was perfectly reasonable, which was that she did what she could. She's not running the day-to-day security guards at the embassies. She didn't have the money from the Congress to bloat up the salary. And you know what? These things are all easy in hindsight. You show something bad that happens, you feel terrible about it. But honestly, to me, her responses have been pretty reasonable.
She's a presidential candidate.
And
Presuming.
probably likely to win.
I don't know about that,
Well,
but she's
she's
a
ahead
president.
in all the polls.
Certainly, but polls mean nothing. See Cantor, Eric. See whoever you want. Yeah. See
Astorino,
Rob, Cuomo.
See Rob versus Andrew.
That's
okay?
right. That's right.
Fair point.
So what is it that you think has been done right and wrong in the Obama administration? If you had to list the best and the worst of the Obama administration right now, what would you say?
The single most important thing is that we've begun to relate to the world in a different manner. We've come to understand that we're not the only country, that we really need to have relationships with other countries. It's a frustrating and slow process, but America is going to be much better off with allies who respect us and work with us.
But they don't. That's the problem.
Much better off than the kind of damage that we caused in Iraq and Afghanistan and with the cowboy foreign policy that some of your friends are promoting. That's the best thing that's happened.
So you're saying leading from behind is the right
No,
policy?
that's
that's
a slur.
But
That's
aren't
a
we
slur.
doing that?
No, I'm talking about treating other nations like grown-ups and partners that we can work with in a complex world. Because you know what? We're not going to defeat our enemies with bullets and bombs anymore. This is going to be a war for the hearts and minds. We've got to convince them that our way's the best.
But we're not. They're not listening anymore.
Well,
Because
you know
the
what?
red line is drawn over here and over here, and it's erased, and
No.
sanctions mean nothing but the UN.
No.
Ask Israelis.
You want to go to war in Iraq again?
No, I'm not saying
Syria?
that at all.
Which
I'm
one
not
of those
saying-
you want to invade?
I'm not saying that that's correct.
Good.
But who in the Middle East fears America?
I'll tell you the worst
Who
thing,
in
by the
Russia
way.
fears America?
Well, it's an extremely complex question. We really need,
yeah, but-
in the end, we need to recognize the threats they are to us, the potential allies. Didn't you like the way, by the way, Iran became an ally in about 30 seconds
is
last
insane.
week?
Is it not insane?
What it shows you is that the black and white sloganeering approach is no longer relevant in this complex world.
But do we really want to be in bed with Iran?
I don't want to be, listen, of the 190 countries in the world, about 180 of them I wouldn't want to have over for dinner. I mean, they're all bad people to some extent, right?
Yeah, but
there we are.
Even our allies can't trust us anymore.
No,
because what we say has no meaning behind it. You know what they feared about Reagan, at least, was they thought his finger was on the button at the whole time, and they didn't know what to do. So you know what? They were timid. They backed off. Nobody thinks the finger's on the button.
I'm going
right
to quote another great Washingtonian: "If you want a friend in diplomacy, get a dog."
Yeah. Well, right now, I think we're being treated as the dogs in the world. Nobody has respect for us, let alone fear.
Here's the problem. America's just been through a long decade and more of taking the old style, domineering approach to the world, and it has left the world in turmoil, everybody angry, and American people saying enough. I mean, look at the polls. Nobody wants to engage in this stuff, other than maybe Dick Cheney, and I think there's 2 or 3 other people are rattling the sabers about it. But most Americans are like, that way didn't serve us very well. Let's see if we can find a way to do it as grown-ups.
But, Ellis, what about our relationship with what should be our best friend and ally in the Middle East, in Israel? That has deteriorated beyond belief.
I don't know. I think it's pretty good.
You ask Israelis, ask Prime Minister Netanyahu.
They complain about each other more than they complain about us.
Yeah, but
don't
shouldn't we make sure that the best democracy, the stable democracy there, is well protected?
Sure, absolutely.
And I've been to Israel, and I talked to Israelis, and you too probably, and you know
absolutely
how they live their daily lives.
Absolutely. And you know what the best way to do that is? To find a 2-state solution to Palestine. Get them in there living with their neighbors, not going to eternal war.
Well,
2 states with legitimate dreams and hopes that we ought to help them live together. Should you for that, right?
Absolutely, we want peace in the Middle East, but
And a
peace through strength, is it
2-state
not?
solution, the dreams of the Israelis and the dreams of the Palestinians, living as neighbors as you and the Clintons do.
We're not that close.
You're going to have some settlements in their backyard pretty soon, I think, right?
All right, so as we wrap it up here, In the next 2.5 years, what do you hope that President Obama can accomplish? And can he accomplish anything else if the Senate becomes Republican?
I got a long list for you. I mean, let's start with immigration. We need severe,
Absolutely
genuine,
agree.
comprehensive
But he had that
immigration
chance
reform.
when he had the House and Senate as Democrats, and that was not what
absolutely.
he chose.
And you asked me about my disappointments with Obama.
Yeah.
He didn't push that stuff hard enough.
Right.
He tried to be too inclusive. He tried to reach out to people who wouldn't respond back, who just slapped back every attempt, and he wasted a lot of time with that. He would have been better if he'd been firing those executive orders that have all your friends all riled up right now. Should have been doing that from day one.
Who needs Congress? We just do it on our own. Ellis, thank you for joining us. It was great.
Good to spar with you.
Yeah, we'll do it again. This is a lot of fun. All right, so up next, we've got the best of Give Me Five. Don't go anywhere. This is the Steve Malzberg Show right here on Newsmax TV.